Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am thrilled. I'm excited. And if you can't tell, we have a gorgeous venue here, and I am so thrilled to see everybody that has come to this event. We also are live streaming this event, so hello to everybody that's online that's watching in as well. My name is Laurie Gill, and I am the Cabinet Secretary for the Department of Social Services. And within Social Services, we have the programming that helps keep children safe and strong. And that is what we're about, and that's what we're here for today. We are so excited to kick off this event with all of you. This is an initiative that we are going to be talking about over the next year, and we want to make real and lasting impression on the lives of children in South Dakota. So today, I am going to walk through, to begin, the agenda so that we know what we're going to be doing as we move through the next hour or so. We have some truly inspiring people with us today who are going to give their actual lived experiences with foster and adopted services. We will learn more about a vision for recruiting and supporting foster and adoptive families. And afterward, we want to invite you to enjoy refreshments, visit the tables that we will have set up afterwards at the back of the room, because we will have information on the topics that we're going to be talking about today. And you can have fellowship and network with those that have some of the same interests that you do. At DSS, we truly believe in our mission of strengthening families as a means to make strong communities and a better South Dakota. Everything we do is rooted in this vision that strong families are South Dakota's foundation and our future. Foster care and adoption are essential to protecting the health and well-being of children, but they also play a major role in strengthening the fabric of our families and our communities. When children are in need of structure, support, and care that a family can bring, there are those who open their hearts and homes, whether it's short-term or forever. They may be the child's relatives, or they may be complete strangers. Regardless, they step in to ensure that children are safe and cared for. Being foster and adoptive parents is not always an easy task. It can be very emotional. It can be physically taxing, but it's definitely worth every moment. The rewards come in little ways, and sometimes it's just a hug, a simple thank you, or maybe a special piece of artwork. So if you take a look around the room, and it may be hard to see, but around the room on the sides, you will see pieces of art that were created by children that are in foster care. And those kids poured their hearts into their artwork. They created pieces of art to depict for us who they really are, more than just their case file. So first and foremost, we want to thank them for their creativity in sharing their dreams and their struggles and the real people that they are. We also want to pay special tribute to all those who have committed to being foster and adoptive parents. You truly are making life-changing decisions when you decide to step forth. It is important as well to recognize those in our communities that want to help in other ways. Businesses, faith communities, community organizations, and friends and neighbors. All those people have to come together, wrap around, and ultimately improve the well-being of children. And all of this is why we're here today. So through this new initiative called Stronger Families Together, we are looking at new ways to recruit and support foster and adoptive families across South Dakota. Stronger Families Together is about all of us working together, and we can all participate in impacting the lives of children. It's just a matter of applying our time, our talent, and our treasures in different ways. So, of course, one of the greatest needs is for more foster and adoptive families in communities. We need them in communities large and small and all across the state of South Dakota. In addition, there are opportunities to get involved and support those families who answer this important call. The collective impact of families, government, businesses, faith organizations, and volunteers is unstoppable. Everyone can do something to ensure that children have safe and healthy families where they can grow, thrive, and belong. Today, we have invited some special guests to speak about the needs of children and families, and we'll be hearing about that in just a second. But I have a couple people that I want to make sure that I introduce. First of all, this facility, it's called Drifters. If you haven't been here before, it's a great addition to the community of Fort Pierre, but also when you get the chance and look out that way, it's one of the best views of the city of Pierre that we have. And we have the mayor of Fort Pierre here, Gloria Hansen. Want to just say hello. In addition, we have Lieutenant Governor Roden here joining us today. And we have Chairman Linekeek here as well, so welcome. And we also look forward to hearing from Governor Noem, who has generously offered her voice to this important cause, and we will be introducing Governor in just a few minutes. So thank you, Governor. So to get us started today, I would like to introduce a foster family who answered the call and offered their home and hearts to children and families in need from their community. We will start with a short video about their journey.
Well, it started with a picnic lunch in the park. Our most recent reunification, we met, in the city park, and we brought lunch, and we visited, and really in this circumstance, really reaffirmed that we knew they loved their kids, that we could tell that these kids had been loved. They knew love. They knew they knew the love of their parents, and from that first meeting, Treg talked to the dad and said, we're here for you, we're in this together, we have a common goal here, and that's getting you guys where you need to be so that you can take care of these kids. This couple didn't end up where they were when we took their kids in because they had support. They ended up where they were because they had no net, they had no safety net. They didn't have extended family with resources, or even extended family within hours and hours of distance from them. When you take away any support system, how hard that is to succeed. So really trying to come alongside of them, and at times, we've really had to balance that line of how hard do we push. Yeah. We've had to be pretty real with them sometimes, and just really say, like, you need to be honest with us. You need to tell us, like, what's going on, what you need. And thankfully, they have been very good about being honest with us.
Yeah. It took some time.
We had to build a
one time we were there,
relationship.
and you could tell something was amiss, and you could see papers and things that kind of indicated maybe there was some bill problems, and we just said, "Is everything going okay? Are you okay?" And I can't even remember who it was, but one said, "No, yeah, we're good," and one said, "No,
we're
not okay." So. It's made us reevaluate standards of what's important, like how important is car ownership, how important is access to a washer and dryer, how important are some of these things that we take for granted because we've always had it. But if they don't have it, is it necessary, for one, for them to love their kids without these tangible assets? And how hard do we work to try to mold their life to what we think is normal versus supporting them in the life they have, and so that they can maybe achieve a different status if they want it, but even if not, even if it's never going to be attainable, can they still be successful as a family? So that's kind of makes you reevaluate what successful family looks like.
So important. That's one thing that we've always talked about with any kid that we've had, that we want them to have really good memories of their biological parents, regardless. Like let's find something, and really just validating with those kids that, again, like their parents still have worth, their parents still have value, regardless of how the situation plays out.
And even if it's seemingly insignificant things like, oh, my dad likes that movie. Oh yeah, well, let's watch that movie. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Or, oh, my dad, he can eat it hot. Like, he can go hot. What do you have that's spicy? Well, let's get, your dad likes it. Oh, I like it spicy too. Let's get it spicy like Dad.
And another thing we've always tried to do is early on in visits, asking the social worker, depending on the situation, a lot of times initially we don't meet the parents, but to take a photo, because kiddos, they don't come, they're not coming with things and so just have a picture, so they can have a picture with them, and a parent to have, and then copies of those in the house. We had some little ones that, we'd kind of tape those around their bed or under their pillow when they sleep at night. Because that's just such an important part. We've had little ones that just fall asleep holding that picture. We've been so blessed to still see those babies. And a few weeks ago, little guy was the baby that that we got as a baby was just running through our kitchen, running, laughing and running, and I said to Trey, I said, I would do every minute of it just to know those babies. And truly one of the hardest moments of my life was driving those little babies home and handing them over to the mama. But that moment, it was worth it for that too. Seeing her taking her kids. She was so happy. When they got them, and when everything finally transitioned back and they regained custody, and we went over to congratulate them, and Trey walked up to that daddy and he shook his hand and he said, I am so proud of you. And when we left, I said to Trey, I just wonder Has anyone looked him in the eye and shook his hand and said, I'm so proud of you? And they were, they were crying, we were crying, and
very humbling to watch yourself cry on television. So thanks for that, whoever scheduled that. I think I know why I was scheduled to go first, so I can take the pressure off anybody who's worried about crying in front of Governor Noem here in the room. So don't worry, I got that handled. My name is Treg, and my wife Laurie regrets she couldn't be with us today. You can tell from the video she has a huge heart for children in the system and for seeing stronger, healthier families in our community, in our state. And we both applaud any effort to advance foster care and adoption care in the great state of South Dakota. So whatever you're here for, if you're here as a prospective foster parent, as a policymaker, as a program implementer, thank you for whatever your role is. We definitely applaud it. Short video obviously is just a slice of what our foster care journey has looked like. And I know that it's different for everybody in whatever capacity you've been in. But if you'd like to ask me any questions, I'll be here sticking around afterwards. You can find me sobbing quietly, maybe somewhere over in this area. I'd be happy to answer any questions if it's what it has looked like for us or how the system can help. Any questions you might have. Again, just thank you for the opportunity to share, and thanks for whatever your role is here today. So we did missions work overseas, and when we got back, we started talking about adopting from overseas, and then just kind of looked at what the needs were in our own country, and thought maybe we should adopt locally. And foster care is a path to adoption. And I mentioned when we spoke at a gala event in Spearfish about a month ago, before that video was shot, and it just hasn't worked that way for us. We've had just a lot of kids go through our home, but that was how we initially got started. So.
Well, thank you, Drake, for opening up about what this has meant to you and to your wife. So thank you. We chose the Stronger Families Together theme for this initiative very carefully because we wanted to shift the thinking away from being an individual pursuit toward the idea that it is about families that have to work together to be successful. The value of foster parents who are willing to partner with the birth parents working to reunify with their children is immense, and not something that you usually think of when you hear the term foster care. When foster parents are invested in helping a family heal, it can make all the difference. Now we are fortunate to have such a foster parent and birth parent team here to share their story of partnership and resilience. Please welcome Clarissa Razanen and Paula Sorsic.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. I would like to start out with a quote that I find to be true and relevant. Families are the compass that guides us. They are the inspiration to reach great heights and our comfort when occasionally we falter. Brad Henry. Family is everything. Every child is born to be loved, to belong to a family. Children are born innocent in the eyes of God, and children are the most loving creatures God created. Anyone with children knows this, and as parents, we must show them what love feels like. For me, I wasn't really sure what that felt like growing up. I was 6 years old when my father was killed, and my mother was unstable emotionally and mentally. Binge drinking for her was normal, as was being away from home for 3 or 4 days at a time. I was physically, mentally, and emotionally abused, so sometimes I was grateful for those 3 or 4 days. But regardless of the abuse, I still missed my mom. School was challenging because I never got to settle into a school long enough to make friends, or as soon as friendships started, we moved. My siblings and I were constantly moving around from one town to the next, one school to the next, one foster home to the next. People came and people went, but my trauma stayed close. I had my first child at 18. Becoming a mother was hard. I was alone and scared. I did not have any healthy support around me for most of my life. I lost my daughter and was in a downward spiral. I entered into drug court and treatment, started working, and was trying to get my life together. Progress was slow. Drug court taught me about recovery, but recovery can only go so far when you are surrounded by unhealthy people. I was working hard to become a good mother and a healthy person and trying to raise 2 kids on my own without any family. I was clean from drugs for almost 3 years, but once again I found myself in a downward spiral. I started using drugs again, and after 4 months of using, my life was changed forever. Because of drugs, the state ended up taking custody of my kids, and they were put into a foster home. Looking back at it though, I wouldn't really call it a foster home. I would say that my children were put with a loving family. Paula and Sam have been amazing. My now husband and I went and saw the kids at their house, video called them throughout the weeks, and kept in constant communication with Paula about how they were doing and about how we were doing as well. This allowed me to focus on healing, on fixing the parts of me that needed fixing, to work through the trauma I'd pushed aside or felt too insecure to address, to wholeheartedly work towards being who I needed to be, to learn and understand how a healthy family works. I knew my kids were safe, and I didn't have to worry about them. I was able to worry about myself for once. I had to shed the layers of unhealthy people that had come into my life. Some were easy to let go of, some were hard, but all were necessary. I realized that when a person is surrounded by so many unhealthy people, there's no room for anyone healthy to get close. I am proud of who I surround myself with today. The South Dakota Kids Belong organization has been a wonderful support to me and my family. I am truly grateful to know so many beautiful families. The outpouring of support they have given us is nothing short of amazing. From holidays to hard times to really just any day, they have been there. Kristi, Cody, and Paula have become friends of mine and my children. We still go to Paula's and let our kids play while we barbecue. I've been to church with Kristi a few times, and she made me feel very welcome and comfortable. My husband and I had a baby girl on January 11th of this year. She had some medical issues a month after being born. We went back and forth from Sioux Falls for a period of about 2 months. Our other 2 kids didn't miss a day of school. They didn't cry when we had to leave. They didn't worry that we weren't coming back. They felt safe wherever they were staying because of those people we now have in our lives. It is truly a beautiful thing. I can see how I am breaking the cycle in all areas of my life. I have a loving husband, loving in-laws, 3 wonderful children, and a dog named Buster. Paula, Kristi, and Cody are wonderful ladies, and I feel blessed to have them in my life, and I have made healthy friendships along the way as well. I am surrounded by people who are truly happy to see me succeed, who will lift me up, who will encourage and reinforce that they believe in me, who love me for who I have become and not judge me for the past. Family is everything, and I have found my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. In South Dakota tribal communities, family is everything. Native American foster and adoptive parents are crucial to maintaining a child's connection to their community, their culture, and their family. Next, we will hear from Department of Tribal Relations Secretary Dave Flute about the continuing need for tribal kinship, foster, and adoptive families to ensure that children are safe and their families have support when needed. Secretary Flute is an enrolled member of the Sisseton-Wahpeton Sioux Tribe and lifelong South Dakotan. Prior to being appointed by Governor Noem as secretary in January 2019, he was chairman for the Sisseton-Wahpeton Oyate. Previously served on that same tribal council. A military veteran, Secretary Flute served this country in Afghanistan and is an active member of the Sisseton VFW. Please, let's help welcome Secretary David Flute.
Oia mi taku dapi, oia taku pe jistina woa dakikte. Oia itokab noaji chantewa shtewa hinaji. It's a very great honor to stand before you today. And before I get into a little bit of the theme and introducing the Bear Stops family, I'd just like to share that, tears are very powerful and very powerful in the healing and the health of us as human beings. And in our Dakota, Ocheti Shakoi ways, we have a ceremony that is a wiping of the tears ceremony. I just wanted to share that. I got a little choked up myself seeing the video and saw some tears and heard some sniffles, and just want to say that that's a very good, powerful reaction. So thank you for that, sir, for sharing that humility. When I think of the theme, building stronger families together, I dig into our language as Dakota and Lakota people. And this language is very ancient. So for me, when I connect, I share with you, Tiwahe Washage Onkaga Pikta. And those are very powerful in our culture, building a strong family together. Family structure is important in our culture, just as it is in other cultures. In our Dakota culture, the bonding of family and extended kinship is vital to the development of self-awareness, identity, and purpose to family and the tribal community. As we look to South Dakota families to open their homes and hearts to foster and adopt, we make a special call to our Native families, our Dakota and Lakota families. Families who can help Native children establish relationships with their culture and communities. Every child deserves a chance to find their personal identity and connect in a meaningful way to not only a family, but the community where they can grow and have an impact and build a better environment. It is a great honor and a pleasure to introduce Brady and Renee Bearstops. They answered the call to become foster parents almost 20 years ago. They have provided a home for numerous children needing a foster or adoptive home. They demonstrate empathy and respect for the children and families who have come to their lives, whether the children stay for one night, a year, or become permanent members of their family. Please help me in welcoming Brady and Renee Bearstops to share their experience with us today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee. Of course, this is Brady. We're both members of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Brady and I have been foster parents we're going on our 20th year. We began our journey as foster parents with a kinship placement. We have placements that are emergency, could be for overnight, weeks or months, or permanently. Being foster adoptive parents, we have adopted 6 children. We have had placements from Rosebud Sioux Tribe, Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, Oglala Lakota Nation, Crow Creek Sioux Tribe, and Standing Rock Sioux Tribe in North Dakota. My reason for becoming a foster parent, and aside from the kinship, was I had a friend in high school who was a foster child. She's very close to me. We still have conversations about our years in high school and the different directions our lives have taken, but I always hold that close to my heart. My nephew was in foster care early in life, and I just felt like that was our calling after we did the kinship. I'll let Brady explain his reasoning for staying in, besides me making him. No.
Like a long time ago, my myself and my two sisters at the time, there's 5 of us, but we were in foster care for about 2 weeks. My mom had gone to alcohol treatment, and we were left with a relative, and it didn't work out. So we needed some help, and we were in foster care. And then the family that we stayed with was really great. I mean, you know, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, and they really helped us when we needed it. But after the kinship placement it was a relative of mine. The kinship, they had gone back to their birth parents, and I just got to thinking, as I grew up with my grandma too. She was, and it's like a lot of grandmas in around the reservation. They're always raising somebody or helping somebody, and that's how we were. And there was always somebody extra at her house. You know, it didn't matter when or where. And she had passed away when she was 60, and she still had 2 kids with her. And she was never a foster parent, but she had some kids still living with her. They were young, like 6th grade and maybe 4th grade. So it just kind of was like, yeah, I can do this. You know, I've been around it my whole life, and it just kind of, like Renee said, it just seemed natural, and it just came easy. And I don't know, it's just, you know, I don't know, it's just the right thing to do. It's just, we had a place, a home, and it was a safe place for a kid to go to, I guess. So.
Each child that comes into our home have their own personalities and needs. Our family goal is to help children know they are loved, safe, and important, and belong. Through foster care, we do have contact with birth families. Our contact with the mothers whose children we have adopted have been an experience we cherish. Family connection with birth families is important because they have things to share about family traditions, history, family experiences, mental health, and health history. I would like to share about our youngest child who we've adopted, who came to us when he was 7 weeks old. He was born to a very young mother, and she has and continues to struggle with addiction and homelessness. We do have close connection with her. We share pictures and mile markers. When we look at him, we are reminded of why we love these children. They are a gift to us to love and provide a home and stability. One of our most rewarding experiences for us and why we are foster parents is that the children that we have cared for is experiencing their first. The babies taking their first steps, hearing their first words, getting their first haircuts, and watching them participate in their activities. Graduation, going on to college, and completing their first year of college, starting their own families. Watching the interaction with our own children is heartfelt. They have embraced our mission of caring for children whose own parents cannot take care of them at the time or even longer. We have a 10-year-old daughter who just turned 10. When she grows up, she wants to be a foster parent. We have our daughter adopted daughter who graduated from Riggs High School last year, is in human services at Mitchell Tech, and she wants to be a caseworker. I want to thank you all for allowing us to share our story. Do you have anything else?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I was just going to say, I was just going to say, as far as, like, you know, we talked about saying the first steps, but I mean, for me, that's what I enjoy the most is, you know, the kids that come into our home to have an opportunity to do things like that, to play volleyball, to play baseball, to go to the river and swim. And then I was reading some of the artwork that's here. I mean, that's what it's all about, is, I mean, putting them first. I mean, they've never been put first in their lives, and that's kind of, the birthday parties is always fun, because a lot of times those kids they're shocked that that's their day. It's their, that's their cake, it's their day. So it's just to see the look on their faces, it's exciting.
And we'll be available after this is complete. If anyone has any questions or like to visit with us, we have lots to tell. Thank you.
Well, thank you first to Secretary Flute for helping. You're a good friend, and we have great partnerships and many more things that we can do together. And Brady and Renee, that was awesome. I think it's very important that we hear the real stories about why you do what you do and the rewards that you get from opening up your homes. I would now like to tell you about an important South Dakota partnership that we have with an organization that has been a leader across the country in this idea of working together to make an impact on children in the foster care system. America Kids Belong is an organization that mobilizes government, churches, businesses, and creative leaders around the goal of permanency and belonging for every child. They create partnerships and combine grassroots methods in states across the country by helping to ensure that every child is in a loving home. Now, how do they do this? They do it by helping us to recruit more foster and adoptive families, engage in wraparound support for foster and adoptive families along the way, engaging churches and business in playing a role in this discussion, and helping those youth who have aged out of care without a family reach their full potential. America's Kids Belong is the parent organization of South Dakota Kids Belong, which is also a partner in this campaign. It is my pleasure to introduce the president and founder of America's Kids Belong, Brian Mavis, to speak about how churches and businesses can become a part of this mission.
You know, in sports, when a player scores, they celebrate. And so in football, you know, they'll usually have their hands up in the end zone. And in basketball, a lot of times you'll see them tug on their jersey. And in soccer, they'll take off their shirt. I'm not going to demonstrate that. And but once in a while, you'll see a player do a move that I love. They'll point to the person who passed the ball to them. And I want to recognize that there's been so much good already happening here. And I could point to every table today. Unfortunately, I just only have the time to point to a couple. I'm going to start with Governor Noem. I thank you that this isn't just a professional issue to you. I know it's a personal experience. You've had that in your own family growing up. This is a passion that you have. We've worked with several governors. You're the only one that we know of that's had personal experience in it. Thank you for lending your voice for these kids who are vulnerable. Secretary Gill, I want to thank you for your leadership in this space, working with your team. It's the most prepared team that we've worked with in all the states, so thank you for the excellent work there. And again, and for all the prior speakers, what you guys have done and how you've stepped up. I was a pastor at a large church in Colorado, and I was just minding my business. I was a foster parent, again, thanks to my wife and her leadership. But I had a child welfare worker call me and say, "Hi, I'm Cindy. I work with child welfare in our county, and I'd like to meet with you to talk about our state of child welfare." I said, "Sure." So Cindy came a couple days later. We met in the lobby. She shook my hand. The first thing she said to me was, "Thanks for meeting with me. I've been trying to meet with a pastor for 3 years. You're the first one to say yes." And so I apologize that had been her experience with the church. She came back to my office. She shared a little bit that she had been a nun for 20 years at the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago before. Then she met a priest, and they fell in love, and she became Episcopalian. So love will change your theology. That's the lesson there. But she said, "Brian, I really just came here to tell you one thing. In the 27-year history of child welfare in our county, we have never had one single day, not a day, where kids weren't waiting for families to take care of them." And she said, "I have a challenge for you. Will you help me change who waits? Will you help me recruit so many families, so many grown-ups who will step up, that they're on the waiting list and not the kids?" And at that moment, I really did feel like it was a challenge not just from her, but from God. And so that idea to change who waits changed my life. we accepted the challenge and within a year fulfilled it. We had more families than there were kids. And I just thought, well, what was possible and what was accomplished in one county, why couldn't it happen in every county? And so that journey began, and that again is one simple way to think about what our goal is here, is to change youth weights. So the simple way to think about it, what do we got going on over there? Okay, look over here, or look at my hands. Simple way to think about this is think of a 3-ring target. And who is in this space, this totality, the ecosystem of foster care? In the bullseye, that center ring, are the heroes. Now, it might be tempting to hear from some of these people over here at this table and think they're the heroes. They're not. The heroes are the kids. They're the wounded warriors, the ones who've battled, and the battles maybe been at home, and they've not only had to survive for themselves, maybe help their siblings survive. And so these are the heroes that we're fighting for. Now, the next ring out are the healers. And that's who we have heard from today. And they have this special place where they open up their hearts and their homes to these kids. And their goal really is to help these kids heal and put them first and do whatever is best for that child. And whether it is fighting for their reunification and rooting for their bio parents or giving them a permanent place if that's what's needed. Now, that's a tough job, opening up your hearts and homes. In fact, the attrition rate is 50% nationally, 50% per year. So, for example, if we were to recruit 100 families today who became foster families, by the end of the year, we'd only have 50 left. And that continues out to about when you're 5 years out, you have about 8 families left. Unless you have this third group, and that's the helpers. And so this group can surround and wrap around these families and help them not only just survive, but thrive. So when we recruit 100 families, a year from now, we have 90. And so the problem, though, is it looks disproportionate. The middle ring is huge, and we have 2 thin rings around it. And so the goal, of course, is to put this proportionality back into place where there's more than enough healing families and more than enough helping families around them. And of course, not everyone can foster or adopt. We don't need everyone to foster or adopt, but everyone can do something. And so having all these healing families around them, and it's the churches that can surround them, and it's not only just churches, it's businesses who can treat these families like they might treat military families, giving discounts and all sorts of things. And we do actually have an app that was developed called Foster Friendly. So if you know businesses that you want to have be supporting these families, they can sign up and be part of that, and these families can receive those discounts. I want to finish by telling a little story that you might be familiar with and shape it a little bit. I'm sure you've probably have heard the starfish story, about the boy who throws the starfish in. And I know this isn't a coastal state, but I thought doing a buffalo chip story wasn't going to relate. So we'll stick with starfish. And the way it goes is this boy sees thousands of starfish washed upon the shore, and unless they're thrown back into the ocean, they're going to die. And this lady sees this boy throwing the starfish in the ocean, and she says, "There's just too many starfish. You're not going to make a difference." And the boy tosses another starfish in the ocean, and it says, "It made a difference to that one." Well, I believe in this concept of just one, the value of just one. That matters. But if you had a mission to clean the whole beach, then a few starfish that are saved and thousands that are perished, it's a failure. So what if the story went like this? Thousands of starfish wash upon the shore, soon to perish unless they're put back in the ocean. A lady sees a boy trying to save the starfish, and she says, "I'm the governor. I can help you save all these starfish." And the boy asks, "How? The two of us couldn't come close to saving all the starfish." And the governor says, "You're right. We need lots of people who care about starfish." She pulls out her phone and contacts her team and says, "Call all the best faith, business, and government leaders we know and tell them to use their influence and to get all their best people and resources to the beach. Soon, hundreds and then thousands of people show up with nets and buckets and wheelbarrows and water and sunscreen and snacks and plans to swiftly and sustainably save all the starfish. The newspapers and TV and social media influencers cover the stories in order to further inspire people to keep the beach and sea safe for the starfish and for all those who care for them. The boy picks up the last starfish and tosses it into the ocean. He says, "We made a difference to all the starfish." And the people replied, "And it made a difference to all of us." We can be stronger when we're together, and we can have a family for every child and a community for every family.
Welcome to the Stronger Families Together Faith Initiative. I want to introduce two South Dakota pastors who chose to see the redemptive work of Jesus Christ and follow the call in James 1:27 to care for vulnerable children in South Dakota.
So I'm Steve Miller, and I'm the pastor at Grace Fellowship here in Spearfish.
Mark Furr, pastor here at Countryside in Spearfish.
So for our church, I want to say it was about 10 years ago now. We had an associate pastor on staff that really had a burden for that, and he came and shared with our elders just this burden for ministering to foster kids or adopted, helping families with adoption. And we began brainstorming about ways that we could, just in-house, ways that we could help come alongside of families. And we get I got a phone call from Kristi, just a cold call. I don't know if she was going through the index of churches in Spearfish, but we had already been talking about ways we could partner with adopting families in the early stages when God was beginning to lay this burden on us. We really didn't feel like we knew what we were doing, and all of a sudden, South Dakota Kids comes alongside of us and helps us have a system in place to help plug people in, to help minister to families, and that whole idea that every person can do something was, it shouldn't be, but it was a novel idea for us.
And that's one of the things that I love about with South Dakota Kids Belong is the wraparound thing, the process that works, and actually Grace does a fantastic job with that. And that to me was something that a lot of people could grab a hold of, because really so a lot of people aren't going to foster, a lot of people aren't going to adopt, but anybody can help in a wraparound scenario.
That's exactly
you can make meals, you can babysit, you can do those kinds of things, do respite care. And so I think for us to be able to talk to the whole church from that aspect and to say, guys, here are all these different opportunities.
But it opened a whole new world to us that we could be providing meals for families or come alongside of them and encourage them, giving them gift cards for some dates away, and those kind of things was revolutionary for us. It was just, it was super helpful, and it's kind of transformed just kind of our whole approach to all of this. It's not just the children, but it's the whole congregation getting involved in ministering to the whole family as a unit. It's just been a beautiful thing to be a part of.
So it doesn't have to be, okay, go up and take this giant plunge that might feel like with adopting or fostering. And then we're finding that people, of course, thankfully, that when they do some of the wraparound things, they begin to catch a vision for what it would be like if they actually fostered and potentially adopted.
There's just so much support like that. Always bringing in clothes, and all of a sudden there'll be a random meal on our doorstep, and it's just like, what is going on, and it's just so neat,
And it just makes you feel seen, and that people want to be involved. It makes you realize what an amazing thing foster care is when it's a community.
I just remember God coming alongside me. I can remember the meeting where I was sitting everything, and he just spoke to me, and just out of the blue, it had nothing to do with even what was going on with the meeting, and he said, "Jared, all of your kids are adopted." And that really changed my heart. It broke down those walls, and it only was just a few words, but what that meant to me was that, God's entrusted these kids to us, but they're His. They're not ours.
I think it's just made it more real. It's not just theory. It's not just in the Word. It's real and active in my life, and I can trust it. I've seen that in foster care more than any other place in my life. Probably the only place in my life, because everything else I'm very like, I can do my job and I can do this, But in foster care, when you are like, I literally can't change another diaper, or this kid's been crying for 2 days straight, I need help. He's made strong in that. It's brought the Word to reality in our lives.
You see a picture drawn of a man, and that's Christ, and then if you were to take a picture of you cut out and then set it next to it, it's probably got a lot of things that don't quite fit into that shape, but it's like each time we walked through a process, it was like a piece of that was cut more like in line with what Christ would look like, that picture, It's like every single time there's a little more refinement, it's a little more, I'm starting to look more like that figure every single time we did that. And it's just really cool. It's like, it's a beautiful arena to be able to do that in, if you're called to do it, so.
People of faith, now is the time to come together, to become a foster parent that not only loves the child in your care, but to support and love the birth family for safe reunification, to adopt the kids in South Dakota that need to belong, to wrap around and care and support for those families who care for those kids.
I just want to say thank you, Brian, for being here and to help us to understand how the churches and the businesses can partner with us that are on the government side of things to make this happen. So thank you so much for being here. I truly hope that all of you here today can start to see how it takes all of us together to do this. And those of you watching remotely, if you have questions, you'll know where to go to continue this conversation. And now I am honored to introduce a woman who doesn't just talk about service to families, she lives it. Governor Kristi Noem is a wife, a mother, and a lifelong rancher, farmer, and small business owner. She served in the state legislature and the U.S. House of Representatives before being elected South Dakota's first female governor in 2018. She often says her greatest accomplishment, however, is raising her 3 children, Cassidy, Kennedy, and Booker, with her husband, Brian. And I would like to say that First Gentleman Brian Noem is also here with us today. So thank you for being here. Governor Noem has a heart for youth in foster care, and she has focused her administration on strengthening families and educating people about the need for more foster families. She is invested in taking action as a state to improve the outcomes for children and families. She's a strong advocate of the partnership between the Department of Social Services and South Dakota Kids Belong to make a difference in our state's foster care system. Please join me in welcoming Governor Noem. Oh my goodness.
Well, good afternoon. I just want to tell you how special this is for me to be here and to see this room full of people who love kids, love families, and want them to be stronger together. People know a little bit of my story, but probably not everybody in the room. But when I was a little girl, my mom and dad brought a little foster boy into our family. So I grew up with a foster brother. And I remember during that point in time, it being strange that we had this new child in our house that was older than me. He wasn't very nice. And it changed everything, and mom and dad's focus went to him a lot of the time when the rest of us 4 kids thought maybe we should have gotten a little bit more attention. I remember him struggling with challenges and anger and being emotional. And as the years went on, he struggled with a lot of different issues, but he had a family, and he knew we loved him. And I remember my mom and dad years later talking about the fact that they wished that when they decided to become foster parents that they would have had more information, that they would have had more information about him and what he had gone through before he came into their home, that they wished that they would have been better trained to know what they could do to help him and to help him cope with a lot of the trauma that he had experienced in his life, because he had gone through a lot of trauma and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of hurt in his life. And they wished so many things would have been different. I remember when I was in college, Mom and Dad had taken on checking in on a lot of families that were vulnerable in our area, and they cared a lot about families that were struggling, and they sent me over to a local acreage to check on these 3 kids that we had kind of been mentoring their family. And when I went into the house, the parents had been gone for several days. The oldest child was about 9 or 10 years old, had a 6-year-old younger brother and a 3-year-old little sister. And they hadn't been fed for several days. Nobody had checked on them. In fact, they had grabbed a box out of the freezer of frozen berries and had been trying to pick at those and eat at those because they were so hungry. And I remembered thinking, being just in my second year of college, what would it be like to be a little child, to have that kind of a situation? Knowing that Mom and Dad loved them, but Mom and Dad were struggling with their own issues too, and that nobody had come to check on them for several days. And so that's really where my heart came from on this issue, was that I just recognized that we are an amazing state. We are filled with amazing people. But there are people who are hurting. There are families in crisis, and there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we can do to come alongside them, and no matter what role I'm in, no matter what I'm doing with my life, that I wanted to encourage everybody to think out of the box about ways that we could build stronger families. So you are probably getting exhausted from hearing me over the last couple of years talk about building stronger families. But I think that South Dakota is remarkable. And a lot of things in South Dakota are going very well. Our economy is going well. We have a lot of jobs. Some businesses are going well. Families are doing better, but we also can have stronger families. And I think that we can do more to make sure that we're supporting kids and families in crisis, making sure that we're there during the times when they need us, and that we're also helping those families reunify when they can, and if they can't, get those kiddos into a permanent home. Because it's incredibly important that we do that and we step up. So I have committed to almost every single time I give a speech that I'm talking about foster care, that I'm talking about adoption. A lot of people aren't even aware because they're so focused on their own lives. They're focused on their own jobs, and they don't know that we have such a great need in the state of South Dakota. So I want to just give you a few statistics so that you can take them and leave today, that you can share them with people that you run into and that you encounter, and inspire them to consider being foster families or adoptive families as well. Yeah, I have a brother that's adopted 3 children. I have a sister that has 4 children and her husband, and they decided to become foster parents to a 15-year-old boy just a couple of years ago. They would tell you they were not prepared for how hard it was and how challenging it has been. But they would do it all over again. And they would do it all over again because this boy had been adopted, given back, adopted again, given back, and had lived the rest of his life in a group home. And that boy, when he came into their home at 15 years old, now he knows what it's like to have a family. He had a family, and he never would have known it unless he had come into their home. The kids that age out of foster care, they face many, many more challenges than kids that get adopted into a home and find a permanent family to love them. So while we have kids that are in foster homes and can be reunified, those that can't, they need a permanent home to be a part of. They need a family. They need to know what that feels like so that they can make sure that they have the best opportunity to be successful and to break the cycle like Clarissa talked about. Your story's outstanding, young lady. You need to tell that story. Anytime somebody asks you, you tell your story because it's inspirational. And people need to know that that's possible, that it's possible to have people come alongside you, support you, and that you can be happy, healthy, have a wonderful husband who's holding your hand like he loves you a lot, and a dog named Buster. I think that's fantastic. So I think that stories are inspirational. We talk about statistics a lot, but it's the stories that grab people's hearts, and they really inspire them to say, well, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could become a foster parent. Maybe I could bring kids into my home and make a difference for everybody. We have 1,738 kids that are in the system with the Department of Social Services today. 995 of them are in foster families today. So I'm so grateful for all of those families that have opened up their homes, but we need more. Last year, we had a 5-year high of 238 homes that were registered and trained to be foster families, but this initiative has a goal of 300 per year. 300 per year for the next 4 years. That's 1,200 new families that we want to get trained, supported, registered to open up their doors to kids and bring them in and protect them and keep them safe. So that's the goal, and the only way that that's ever going to happen is through you. Is through you telling the stories and making sure you're sharing it, engaging with your business. If you work at a private business, go talk to the people who own that business and management and ask if you could address the employees and educate them about this program. If you go to church, go talk to your pastor. Brian, thank you so much, and Julie, for coming and for doing this. I remember I've always been passionate about this issue, but the Lieutenant Governor, Larry, and his wife, Sandy, went and heard you speak a couple of years ago and came back and was telling me all about it, and were passionate about getting you here. And I said, okay, but we're already doing something. I get it. Yeah, it's a national organization. Okay, but we know what we're doing here in South Dakota. And Larry and Sandy would not let it go. I think every 2 weeks, Larry was like, did you contact them yet? Did you get them here? Because they're really powerful people. So I'm excited to finally meet you. I've done some research on your organization, your heart for people, and I'm so glad that you're helping us do this with the goal of making sure that every kid has an opportunity to be in a family, to be in a foster home that is prepared and trained and a safe spot for them to be, and to help reunify that family that might be in crisis. I am certainly hopeful that you'll consider donating, that you'll, if you financially can, support a family around you. Ask a local business to give foster families those discounts that we talked about, because they are spending money out of their pockets many times to take care of these kids. Volunteer, work through these organizations and help support them so that they aren't doing this alone and this journey isn't alone. We will continue to do this because it's the right thing to do. I think that was something that was said earlier, but Brady and Renee, thank you for opening up your home to your kids and for continuing to do that, for everyone telling your story. Trey, tell you and your wife and your heart that you wear on your sleeves really will change hearts the more you continue to go out and tell that story. So this is a powerful initiative that will make a difference each and every day. So thank you for being here. Laurie, a lot of times I say a lot of things and I bug my cabinet secretaries and I say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? I never have to say that to Laurie. She catches the vision, she puts the work in, and she understands when it's important. It makes a world of difference. I'm so grateful for her heart. I'm so grateful that she is in this position because God wants her in this position, and she knows what needs to be done, and that we're here to serve people. So may God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being involved, and may God bless South Dakota and all the kiddos that live here in our families. Thank you.
Okay, wow. I'm fired up. Hopefully you all are. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership, and we have many more important things to do on this, so more to come. So thank you, everyone, for attending and being willing to be part of the work. And now you see it's going to take all of us together to continue to work on this initiative. We're confident that we can make a significant impact on the most vulnerable children and families in our state over the next few years. We can meet this goal. It's good to set goals because we have something to achieve and beat and do better than those goals. It takes the grit and the heart of South Dakotans to come together to do this. So as we close, I do want to thank a few people as well. You can't pull something like this off without preparation and people working on it, and I have a fabulous team. I want to thank our Division of Child Protection Services under the oversight of Children and Families Chief Virginia Wiesler and Division Director Pamela Bennett. All of your hard work has paid off. It's going to make this initiative go forward and be successful. We also had Sarah Shepik and Misty McAllister, who have been very instrumental in shepherding this event to this point. We're also very appreciative of our partnership with South Dakota Kids Belong, and we couldn't have done it without Damon and Christy Woolsey sitting together with us at all the planning meetings. So could you wave so we know where you are? Thank you. And a very special thank you to Ashton Rohn from Connection Church in Balfouche for taking care of all of our technology needs and social media live streaming. Thank you. Just a reminder, again, we would like to invite you to enjoy a refreshment with us, courtesy of South Dakota Kids Belong, and we hope that you'll stick around and talk to the people that you've heard from. Look at the information that we have available. On all of your tables, there was a high-level agenda, but on that is also contact information. So if you want to go to a website, give us a call, talk about what you can do, we want to make sure you know how to reach us. Also, take a closer look at that artwork that we have on display. I've talked about it already, and you just have to take a look at it. It's pretty cool. As I mentioned at the beginning, you'll notice that we will have the table set up with information, so we don't want anybody to leave thinking you don't know how to get a hold of us. Thank you so much for coming. This is a great day for me, and I look forward to working with all of you as we move ahead with this initiative, Stronger Families Together. Thank you.